Right, so Ennis particularly wanted me to ask you, how are you doing on the Wi-Fi? He's been walking around the room and he said a lot of you are now on. Oh, Ennis!
But one thing, hang on, one thing. Before we get into saying, oh, well, you know, we're in Africa, South Africa, the Wi-Fi is bound not to work. I was at TED a couple of years ago on the West Coast, California. There was no Wi-Fi. In fact, some guy was supposed to fly a plane around the room on Wi-Fi, and he couldn't because the network was down. So it's not just because we're in Africa.
Ennis and these guys have been working right through the night with the local team trying to get this sorted out, so I'm anxious for him to feel that he's made the progress he needs. Hashtag for this session, therefore, hashtag leadership. We've talked about the power of protest. Lots of places, old models of power are crumbling, in business and in politics. But all of you young people wanting to engage in politics face the following question. Do you embrace existing systems, or are you trying to create new ones? 29% of young people don't participate in their country's political process. But the picture is different in every part of the world. So 49%, Latin America, always participate. Globally, 52% of young people don't believe their country's political system represents their values and beliefs. We saw that earlier. In Poland, 65%. In Italy, 87% of people under 25 don't believe that their politics reflects their values and wishes. Technology is making a difference, but clearly the picture is definitely one of you guys being disenchanted with current models.
So let's scroll forward and bring on the councillors. I think we've had enough numbers for the moment. Kate.
Okay, so the next councillor has received many awards, including the Legion of Merit, the Distinguished Flying Cross for Combat Valor. He completed his first NASA space flight in 2008, and since then, he spent more than 178 days in space and 27 hours and 3 minutes doing 4 spacewalks. He tweeted from space by logging onto a laptop, which was connected to a remote desktop. Please welcome One Young World's very own NASA astronaut, Astro Ron Garan.
So Trevor Ncube has stood up against the forces that want to silence independent reporting of government conduct, not something we can allow to happen. He's the founder, owner and executive chairman of 2 newspapers in Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe Independent and the Standard, and in 2007 he was awarded the International Publishers Association Freedom Prize Award. Please welcome Trevor Ncube.
And welcome back again, Carole Stone.
And last but by no means least, South Africa's own Matola. I was about to walk off without inviting the delegate speakers. We might need you guys. Because the delegate speakers, please come up. Give them a huge round of applause.
Right, well, we've got some very good speakers because I've met 3 of them and I know they're going to be good. So first of all, from Palestine, someone who lives in Gaza. He's just about to come to the UK to study a master's degree in social media at Birmingham University. But as I say, he lives in Gaza. He's the director of a British organisation, PAL, which is a foundation for academic links with Palestine. A great welcome to Maysara Arabeed.
Thank you so much, Carole. As we gather here today in the land of popular struggle against injustice, against apartheid, and the land of inspiration for freedom and justice, there is no better time to proudly quote what Nelson Mandela once said: "We know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Maysara Arabeed. I'm a Palestinian from a refugee camp. I belong... Thank you very much. I belong to Herbia village occupied in 1948, along with one of many refugees who today still remain expelled from their homelands and still living under siege, occupation, or degrading circumstances. It's my honor to represent Palestinian youth here today at the One Young World Summit. I'm delighted to be with so many of you guys who have come to share inspiring life stories and are here with the firm belief that they will be the driving force in making this world a better place. When I was 12, I was psychologically traumatized by the ongoing conflict in Palestine, especially in Gaza where I live. You know what? I lost my ability to speak. I grew close to a kind-hearted person, himself visually impaired, who understood my agony. He wholeheartedly believed in me and seized every opportunity to help me speak again. It took many attempts, a long time before I managed to utter a single word. But with his inspiration, I eventually completed the journey we had started together and became an inspiring public speaker. It took me 3 things: faith, resilience, and 3 years. And here I stand today delivering a speech at One Young World Summit. I'm delivering a speech about how this story drove me to become a young leader in my community, determined to have a positive impact on the value of humanity and in human life. In 2010, after graduating from university, I volunteered for a committee hosting several international delegations coming to Gaza with the hope of breaking the siege as well as delivering essential medical supplies. Here I engaged with many youth leaders and activists to discuss how to increase the presence of youth in the public and international arena. Then I took my public speaking and activism one step further to answer the call of so many young Palestinians and others in the Middle East eager to engage in dialogue with the world, to have their peaceful, loving voices heard. The task was enormous. There were so many obstacles to such communication, from governments to occupation to media, which are marginalizing these youth. So in Gaza, I started an initiative to empower young Palestinians by running academic delegations of university professors from the UK to Gaza. They provide workshops to young Palestinians on leadership, conflict resolutions, peace, human rights, business, and others. The aim was to build links between the UK and Palestine, between academic professors and youth. We decided that if our voice was not being heard internationally, we will invite international youth delegations and engage with them locally. Following the first successful delegation, we decided to form the PAL Foundation, PAL standing for Palestine Academic Link. The PAL Foundation has now hosted 4 academic delegations from the UK institutions, and we are building relations with other European universities. And for the first time, we are organizing a delegation of 15 young leaders from Palestine to visit the UK very soon. Thank you. I believe the involvement of young people in politics plays an important role in the development of democracy. It's the pillar of a forward-looking political system PAL Foundation is therefore committed to facilitating youth's positive contribution in decision and peacemaking, and ensuring the youth of the Palestinian community and other communities will continue to uphold the values of tolerance and respect, the principles of fundamental human rights, justice, and the rule of law. I want all young people around the world, including the Palestinians, to be empowered. For all the victims of discrimination in the 21st century and ongoing military occupation, I want them to be able to turn their tragedy into positive action for the betterment of humanity. And I will continue on this journey with undying determination. One day, David and Kate, one day I will return to One Young World as a counselor to introduce a fabulous new young generation that will continue with the responsibility that you and I have undertaken here today for the betterment of humanity. Thank you. And as President Johnson said, if we are to live together in peace, we must come to know each other better. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce to you Riley Wayman. Riley and I were chatting in the backstage. She's a very passionate woman. She's a very talented woman, very confident woman. She's originally from Chicago. She's American. She's passionate about politics, about the environment, and education issues. She works with an organization called Inspire, which provides consultancy for local nonprofit serving the youth and education missions. She also serves on the board of an organization called Roosevelt Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Riley Wayman onto the stage.
Democracy is a sacred word in the United States. America sees itself as the bastion of democracy, protecting it at home and fighting to promote it abroad, for better or for worse. Yet despite our ideals, American democracy is complex and occasionally flawed. As we consider what is the new democracy, the answer is a process that engages all people, especially the young ones, in designing and building a system that works to solve problems rather than protect the status quo. America's status quo is marked by uncertainty, gridlock, and a degraded sense of common purpose. There is no better representation of this than the Washington, D.C. government shutdown. There is a vacuum of leadership. There is an absence of governance. According to the Presidential Youth Council, less than 30% of young people fear their voice is represented in government. This is unsurprising. We are the most racially and ethnically diverse and religiously and sexually tolerant generation America has ever seen. Yet our representatives are mostly white, male, Christian, and straight. Meanwhile, the core functions of our system continue to be undermined by money in politics, voter suppression efforts, and crippling budget cuts. With our disillusionment comes disengagement from politics. In 2012, only 45% of young people voted. To many, our generation is simply apathetic, not asking to be taken seriously. But the problem isn't apathy. Every 4 years, we are asked to be the boots on the grounds for candidates, making phone calls and knocking on doors. Yet we are never asked for our ideas or for our engagement between elections. Over the last 6 years, I've worked with the Roosevelt Institute, which was born out of this youth engagement problem. We are a nonpartisan organization of over 10,000 millennials working to empower young people as leaders and promote their ideas for change. We call our model for this new democracy, Think Impact. Using ideas and actions, millennials can create a blueprint for 21st century governance. Think Impact. Our initiative, Think 2040, asks thousands of millennials for their vision and roadmap for America in 2040. In this vision, America continues to be a model of innovation, tolerance, and strength. We aspire to create a world that is more equitable, more community-driven, and better prepared to tackle our country's problems. The old model of the white, male, moneyed politician is no longer relevant. Today's minorities will be tomorrow's majority. Our government must transform to represent these previously silent voices. In January, Roosevelt launched its action plan based on Think 2040 discussions. We call it a government for and by millennial America. Combining high ideals and pragmatic solutions, the plan demands change through local action, that we combat challenges within the existing system to generate lasting impact. Create change not just through protest, but collaborative action. Engaging with community members, nonprofits, and elected officials, we can think impact by leading with our ideas. We must design unique, realistic solutions tailored to our communities. We can implement them by demanding to have our solutions heard. Roosevelt's action plan isn't just fantasy. Every year, our members produce thousands of policy proposals, putting passion to paper and ideas to the doors of policymakers. For example, in Washington, D.C., the City Council implemented our members' proposal to close loopholes in predatory payday lending. We designed tax-based automatic enrollment that was included in national health care reform. We have started our own nonprofits, worked in the White House, served in local government. We aren't just testing our ideas of this new democracy, we are implementing them. Millennials are uniquely able to achieve our vision for the future. Social media gives us a forum to share ideas and to collaborate. Technology has the potential to broaden and deepen participation in the democratic process. Our generation has an expectation to be heard. Our shared experiences make us socially empathetic, innovative problem solvers, both capable and willing to work together. Our generation will inherit a society built by others unless we take an active role in envisioning and shaping our future. What is your vision for your country in 2040? What is your blueprint for change? How can you think impact?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I have the great honor of introducing a duet, a team speech here. So I have the honor of introducing two incredible individuals, Liz Alarcon and Pradiip Alvarez. Liz is a student at Georgetown, and she really believes in the power of democracy for peace, particularly human rights and freedom of speech. And Pradiip faced a tragedy in his life. The tragic death of his father, the murder of his father, inspired him in a way and actually changed his trajectory in life. And it changed his trajectory and his path from one of astrophysics to one of defending human rights and liberties. And so together, both of them as a team, these two friends are working towards promoting human rights and justice in Venezuela, and they want to tell us all about it. So please welcome Pradiip Alvarez and Liz Alarcon.
Hello, One Young World. The weakening of Venezuela's democratic system has contributed to a critical human rights situation. In Venezuela, exercising free speech carries a very high risk. Political dissent is criminalized. Property is taken by force, and independent media outlets are constantly shut down. With over 21,000 homicides in 2012, 96% of which went unpunished, Venezuela has become the most violent country in South America and one of the most violent in the world. Widespread violence, corruption, and violations of human rights are global problems that touch every corner of the world. But in Latin America, they continue to be overlooked because the situation in other regions
is more extreme. But these are not grounds to ignore them. Liz and I are here to ask you to help us envision a different Venezuela, a different Latin America, one where the walls of government oppression are demolished, one where leaders value democracy and human rights above all. Liz and I have taken personal responsibility and feel that it is our duty to amplify the voices of millions of Venezuelans that simply haven't been able to speak up. Given this reality, we have worked towards defending human rights since 2009, with particular emphasis on protecting freedom of expression through protests, informative conferences, symposiums, voting initiatives, and online campaigns. We participated in the first international conference of Venezuelan students, which brought together young leaders from over 50 universities in 7 different countries to create a long-term vision for our country. I co-founded one of the most active Venezuelan student associations in the United States, which has produced very bright leaders. Liz has worked to bring international attention to human rights breaches through the Venezuelan Association, A World Without Censorship. She organized massive protests in Miami to refuse having political leaders re-elect themselves indefinitely. And most recently, has taken her activism to the United Nations as a Leo Neves Human Rights Youth Activist Awardee.
We have not achieved this by chance. First, we've mastered the art of negotiation. Our relationships must include a broad network of power brokers that can help us spread our cause. To shift institutionalized policies, we as young leaders have to transition from being a subculture that those in charge talk to being equals that are talked with. But even more important than that, is crafting a clear mission, and that's what we've done. Our goal is to use every tool to inform the international community about breaches committed by the Venezuelan government against human rights. We refuse to accept that authoritarianism, corruption, nepotism, and fraud are acceptable forms of governance. We refuse to acknowledge that an organized civil society cannot change Venezuela's history. Every tweet, every petition, every single protest and campaign that we have organized has contributed to stating that we will not stand for freedoms to be shackled by self-serving leaders. We have delivered this message to the United Nations, heads of state, academics, countless news outlets, and now to you. But the job is not done. Understand that the world's image of Chavez's 21st century socialism is not the country's truth. Venezuela has a vast reserve of oil and wealth, yet there is a shortage of toilet paper and milk. Know that thousands of foreign nationals are given citizenship immediately before elections just to ensure that they vote for the regime. And that broadcast media is forced to play government propaganda 2 hours every day. Did you know that Venezuela is the first country in the history of humankind that has inaugurated a president that is bedridden abroad? And just a few months ago, opposition parliamentarians were beaten while in session. To top it off, the current president, a bus driver, confuses the country's cities with its states and takes advice from a little bird. These are the costs of mild improvements in social equality. The cause? Ineffective leadership and poor governance at every level of government. The powerful solutions that we have learned at One Young World will be nearly impossible to sustain if authoritarian regimes continue to oppose and oppress their citizens, and it must be stopped. This is the first time that Venezuelans have had the opportunity to tell representatives of the whole world about the reality of the country. And to change it, we need your help. Broaden your network and use social media to tell the world about this, but use it to do good. 140 characters can abolish dictatorships and create movements.
Dear brothers and sisters,
can we count on you to be the change we envision for Venezuela?
So next up, it's my great honor to introduce a young leader. Ashish Danli is a politician in India. You know, the average age of a politician in India is 45. But age 22, Ashish entered politics. And at age 24, he became the deputy mayor of Bandlapur. Ashish is passionate about many issues. Anti-tobacco is one, and female feticide. And he believes that if young people enter politics, that will have a vast reduction in corruption. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to one of the future national leaders of India, Ashish Danli.
Thank you very much. The inclusion of youth in politics is critical if we want to make positive changes. At school, I always wanted to be the class representative to lead, but was not top of the class academically, so was never given a chance. Many times we see that good academics are given a chance to be a leader in schools, in colleges, in companies. But I believe that academic progress of a person has nothing to do with leadership. A person may be weak. A person may be weak in academics, may be weak in accounting, may not be a good orator, but can be a good leader. I went back to my school at the age of 22, having become the youngest politician to have been elected. My point is, all youth should be included. You don't have to be academic to enter politics. When I decided to enter politics, people said, you are too young. Politics is not a respectable profession. Stay away from it. But I believe that any system can change if only young people come forward to be a part of the system. I managed to convince the voters that though I lacked age and experience, I had vision. Every leader should have a vision of what he can or needs to do. And number two, the ability to make right decisions. Youth has the energy, the zeal, and the dedication to perform. We are far more capable and fast, and more knowledgeable about the latest technologies and trends if used in the right way can surely benefit every citizen. I convinced my voters that we need young people for change. I convinced them that I could bring the change in the governance. And I convinced them that it was important to stop communal voting and vote for the deserving candidate. Happily, I was elected at the age of 22, even without the support of any political party. In a country like India, 50% of our population is youth. Yet, the average age of those ruling us is 45 to 75 years. Senior politicians should always try and support youngsters, whereas many times we see that they demoralize them. As a councillor, I exposed many corrupt practices. I took the initiative to install CCTV cameras in the council offices to increase efficiency and transparency. This could enable the general public to go to the local library and hear recordings of the council meetings. Previously, parents had to pay for birth certificates. I made girls' certificates free to try and stop female foeticide throughout the state of Maharashtra. I led an anti-tobacco awareness and education program resulting in 2,000 youth pledging never to touch tobacco. I promoted e-governance and digital technology, introducing online tax payments for citizens and online tendering of council contracts to increase efficiency of the local government. I was often challenged by older politicians, but I persisted, and I was voted as the youngest council vice president at the age of 24. One day at the council offices, security guards came to me and said, "Sir, we have to salute each councillor because we are paid to respect the post. But we salute you today for the work you are doing for the city. It shows that the people are aware of what their leader is doing. I will always work for the betterment of my people." Today, youngsters on Facebook do write, "I hate politics, but I want them to say that I will change politics. This can make a big difference." I want them to understand that politics is not a dirty game. There are only dirty players. We have to get involved to make change. The food we eat, the medicine we take, the water we drink, the education we get is a result of politics. So, actually, we are already involved. So let's take up a challenge. Let's be a responsible youth, and let's be a part of politics. Jai Hind.
Well, what a session. Our next speaker is from Jerusalem. She's an Israeli. She's an entrepreneur. She's involved in anything, she says, that is enterprising with young people, encouraging young people to anything in digital, technical, and the social world. She herself took part in the My Hero Film Festival in 2011, and her movie Movement actually won the prize, which was good, and it was encouraging as ever dialogue between Israelis and Palestinians, and that is one of her real passions. Human rights is her passion. She's got a lot to talk about. She's very excited. So am I to introduce Daniela Siegel.
Thank you. My name is Daniela Siegel, and I believe in dialogue. I'm a third-generation Holocaust survivor. Both of my parents had to leave their homes, their lives, and run away from their country because of anti-Semitism. People around the world sometimes don't want to talk with me only because I'm an Israeli. Although we are in 2013, many of us in this room today are still experiencing discrimination in one form or another. I don't want the next generation to grow up in a world filled with discrimination of any kind. Like everyone affected from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I experienced personal tragedies. I believe we are the generation who can end conflicts. I believe dialogue is the first key to do that. I believe in dialogue among people. I believe in dialogue among communities. I believe in dialogue among nations. Dialogue is a way of thinking, living, and acting. I'm passionate about people. This led me to study international relations and political science. I learned about realism, liberalism, and some else-lism, but very little on how to integrate with people from different countries and different cultures. So 3 years ago, together with a friend, we decided to create Kenes. KNES stands for Knowledge, Entrepreneurship, Networking and Skills. It aims to encourage youth and university students to take part in the international initiative, not only to gain an interdisciplinary experience, but to foster productive dialogue, personal relations, exchanging ideas, to engage and collaborate. Not enough students being involved in an international initiative. Many believe they won't have anything valuable to add, so they don't apply for these opportunities. For others, there are additional complications. People from conflict nations have difficulty approaching and speaking with each other. They also have travel restrictions, which limit their ability to take an active role in international dialogue. Today, through KNES, we managed to help hundreds of youth with applications, scholarship, and sponsorship to engage with international discussions. In any international collaboration, the first step we need to take is to communicate with each other, which means accepting dialogue as the first and main tool to solving situations. By thinking dialogue is the change, we are now able to imagine the future we want. And the best part, we can do that together. But just because we accept dialogue as the key, doesn't mean others will. Sometimes we might encounter disagreement and deceptions. It might require compromise, but it's worth it in the end. By doing so, we will discover we are more alike than different, more similar than strangers. We have more in common than we think. Thank you. This is how communities are created. We can't choose our family, nor the country where we were born, but we can choose how to act and which community we want to be a part of. One Young World was created for us so we can shape our own present, so we can build the future we want and the community we need. Please, look around. It's not about you anymore. It's about us. It has to be about us. Creative dialogue will change people's mindsets, tear down these mental barriers, get involved in building new and better communities, start a dialogue in local, national, or global level. Let's shape human history together. As leaders, as doers, we must take the first step and show the way. As my friend Maysara said, if we are to live together in peace, we must come to know each other better. Our presence matters, what we do matters, how we do it matters. Believe dialogue is the tool for change. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce to you someone that is very passionate about enabling her country to become a respectable country and a contributor to the European Union in a significant way. The person I'm introducing is Ioana Fotopoulou. And Ioana is a founder of the Activists. The Activists is a grouping that is campaigning for greater transparency and leadership by the Greek government, but also by other governments in the region, the Balkans. Their campaign is now being expanded to Serbia, Montenegro, and soon she assures me they will be reaching Albania and Turkey. She has worked for the European Parliament, and she said to me that, as an engineer, I found it very strange that she says she's also a soccer player, and I can attest to that. She also is a very avid reader. She loves books. She reads extensively. And lastly, she says she does not have a television. But what ties her and a group of 29 other activists is the passion to bring around a new democracy, to deal with issues of leadership, of transparency, combating corruption, and shaping a better future. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce Johanna to the stage. Thank you.
Before starting, I would like, due to some recent incidents with fascism and a political party, to say to all the Greeks watching and all the people that are experiencing similar situations, stay united. This is the only way we can defeat fascism. Miller, One Young World, Kalispera. I come from Greece, the country of the economic crisis. Riots, Molotov cocktails against the parliament, unemployment, corruption. I know. But recently, working in the European Parliament, I saw something changing within the Greek mentality and the Greek politics. Efforts towards a national sovereignty. Efforts to pay back every single euro we owe so that our presence within the EU will be again of significance. So let me, through the eyes of a young Greek, introduce you to the real Greek situation in 3 steps. Number 1, the state. The way our state operates needs to be improved. Our debts needs to be paid back. A practical way to achieve this is by changing the structure of our tax collection. We need transparency on how every single Greek, from a pensioner to the Prime Minister, earns his income. An online database for Greeks to declare their income might not sound exciting, but is vital. Tax evasion is responsible for the 1/5 of Greek debt right now. Imagine our debts starting being sustainable and Greece to reach an economic growth just by changing the tax collection procedure. The brilliant thing here is that it includes everyone, even high-ranked state employees and our politicians. But corruption is like an hourglass. It starts from the top, and as the time passes, it reaches the base. Up until now, you will hear people saying, the elite of our country doesn't pay taxes, why should we? This feeling has changed drastically among my generation. We are fed up of this system. We don't deny our obligations, and we want to pay what needs to be paid. At this critical point of our history, we need politicians ready to lead, ready to give up some of their own comforts existing in the current tax system in order to realize transparency. This should become, through our politicians, a new national identity. So this leads us to number 2, leadership and governance. I will start with an example. I come from Thessaloniki, the 2nd biggest city in Greece. The subway of Thessaloniki started being created in 1989, the year I was born. Still today, under construction. Not because of slow implementation or lack of resources, but because of slow political will. Fluid politics and lack of consistency in policy lines bring new reforms every 4 years with every new government elected. But this online tax database should be used no matter who governs the country. Political leaders must be able to see above party affiliations and beyond electoral campaigns to the common public good. The transformation of society needs to start with them. I don't, of course, deny any responsibility. We voted for them, including me. But they need and can be the role models we look up to. So this brings us to number 3, the civil society. This is how the idea of the activist was born, an action group with vision to reform society and redefine democracy. Our first important fight is the one against corruption. We're conducting a survey on tax evasion, the social groups excluded of tax payment, and we advise on improvements. This economic crisis, though, has a moral dimension as well. For that, we initiate a series of 3 roundtable talks in Thessaloniki. We will live stream them, promote them through social media so that they can reach as many people as possible, and that way we can expand the impact. We are gathering the political elite with representatives of the Prefecture of Central Macedonia, the Macedonian Trust Ministry, consulates, and civil society representatives. In the end of every debate, we will pose questions to the political elite derived from our Twitter account. This way, we will raise awareness on the importance of eliminating tax evasion, include everyone, realizing democracy at its core, but also try to create together a formula with which families struck by unemployment are helped. Just 3 things: good governance, a robust civil society, and a responsible state. These are the 3 indispensable pillars to Greece's recovery, and Greece will again marry its great history with a bright future. If my country can achieve this, so can yours. So, read, question, take a deep breath, and have the courage to stand up and make some positive change. Remember, we make the countries, not vice versa. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Well, our last speaker was born in Jordan. He's the youth policy advisor for the Arab League. He's worked in Cairo, Iraq, Jordan, Egypt, and he lives now in New York. He's just been appointed for the first ever United Nations Secretary General's Envoy in Youth. A welcome to Ahmad Alhendawi.
Thank you. Hi. Well, our friends at One Young World Counsellors, and I mean wonderful, young, inspiring people here. I personally have overdose of inspiration at this summit, and I need to handle it somehow now. I think the only way to handle it by having another overdose of implementation and action. I have seen this already. On behalf of the United Nations, I would like to congratulate you all for this amazing work, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be with you today. I prepared a remark, but what I did this afternoon, I joined one of the plenary sessions of the work breakout sessions. It was about leadership and governance. And it flipped my mind somehow. So I decided to share some observations with you that I think they are extremely relevant to our discussion today. The first one is to share with you a story in December 2010. I was living in Egypt at that time, and I went to a launching ceremony for what was called the National Youth Survey in Egypt. One of the findings of that survey was that only 4% of Egyptian youth participate in any voluntary work. What a shame. Only 2% of Egyptian young women participate in any voluntary work. The minister at that time, she said, well, my interpretation to this, probably because they are careless, young people are lazy. It was only 2 months. 2 months, January 2011, thousands and millions of Egyptians took to the street demanding democracy and human dignity. Well, what we can take from that? 2 main things. First, young people participate when they are convinced that this is a meaningful participation. They don't participate for the sake of participation. Convince them and you will find them. Second, politicians and political institutions, sometimes they fail to read numbers. That number was a sign of protest, not a sign that they are careless or lazy people. So we better enhance the way that we communicate and work with young people, and we read the numbers and we understand the trends. As someone said once, as societies enter the digital age, politicians and political institutions remained in the analog. And that's so true. I have here several times that young people are not interested in politics. They hate politics. Thank you, Ashish. That's not true. Young people interested in politics, just go to social media and see what they are debating. They are just not interested in governments. They are not interested in institutions sometimes. But they are super interested in politics. And sometimes it makes me wonder why this gap between politics and political processes. You will find them super active in social media, but they don't go to vote in the election day. Right? So let's try to figure out why this is the case now. So many countries around the world. For me, I think political institutions failed to catch up with the speed, the pace where young people are interacting and keep changing things. And we have seen this over and over again. Just look to the recent protests. We have one category of protests where non-democratic regimes, young people took to the street demanding freedoms and dignity. That's fine. We have other countries where the economic crisis hit hard and the unemployment rate reached very high percentage, where young people, they took to the street and they decided we are going to demand more jobs, and that the government prioritize our issues. But how about countries where they are doing fairly good? Economic growth is high, low unemployment rate, and they have a democratic system, and still young people took to the street and they still protesting and they have social movements in the street. So I'm trying to understand what does that mean. I could not find a better answer than the former president of Brazil, Lula da Silva, who said, democracy is not a contract to silence. So, what I want to tell you today, say goodbye to democracy if you think democracy is about voting every 4 years. That is over. Goodbye that democracy, and we should welcome and adapt with another democracy that is allowing citizens to interact and engage on a daily basis with all issues concerning their lives. This is the big challenge facing all of us today. And institutions and political institutions, they need to adapt to that. Democracy is no longer about voting every 4 years. And young people, they should join politics. They should, even if they are discouraged with everything and with everyone, it's the only way to transform things is to run for election. As I told one in the session before I joined here, told him if you are not convinced in any one of the candidates, run yourself. You should take part in politics and should transform from within. Just to finish with one example, in 2011, I was invited to speak at the General Assembly of the United Nations. And I spoke to all member states there. I told them, well, the United Nations is not doing enough for youth. I believe that the United Nations should do more. 3 years later, Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, called me for an interview. I said, well, come and do that job. Now, for the first time ever, the United Nations has one common strategy, bringing more than 40 entities together to work in youth issues. The United Nations is now leading a new momentum globally for investing in young people. But we will not be able to do that alone. We will need you all to join forces with the United Nations. And here again, my message to you, all politics are local, start at the local level. And it's not about changing the entire world. It's about changing something in this world. Everybody cannot do everything, but everyone can do something. So do that thing and come back here at this summit, share what you have done. Be ambassadors, returning ambassadors, and be also counselors and agents of change. Thank you very much.
How much time do we got?
Okay, fantastic session. So before we break, we're going to go to another open mic session. Then we will have a half-an-hour break so you can have a coffee and whatever and get ready for the finale. So I think if everyone can keep it to 30 seconds, we can probably do 8 people on each mic. But you'll have to keep it to 30 because otherwise the next person will lose their time. Sorry, councillors, would you mind? Yes, I should know how to do this by now, shouldn't I? Would you mind going to the floor and manning the mics? So you know the routine, just introduce the person and where they're from. And to the delegate speakers on the mics, if someone's introduced you, you don't need to introduce yourself again. Miller.
Your name?
Zaid from Syria.
I have Zaid here from Syria, who wishes to pose a question.
How are you? Good afternoon, all. Frankly, I want to extend what my colleague Asher from India said. And during the breakout session in the leadership and government, all the delegates agreed that the international governmental system or the current UN system should be changed. And this because of this thing, and I hope the camera can get to the iPad. This because of this photo, okay, and because also of this genocides that took place in Syria not 30 or 40 years ago, but only 3 or 4 months, and it's continuing to happen because of the failure of the United Nations Security Council to solve this problem. So the next So, is it the moment for a new system, international system, that really can solve the problems? Is it the new moment for us to work on changing this current system, this UN system, to stop these genocides? I want to finish with this picture. This was put in a train station in US, and as you see, I love USA and Russia. So because of the conflict being there, supporting both sides, this was not solved. We need you, One Young World, and let's do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trevor.
All right, introducing Iffy from India.
Hi. I just have a very general comment to make. I personally feel magic happens when you move out of your comfort zone. So my message for everyone out here is get uncomfortable, go travel the world, go meet new people, understand new cultures, and that's where maybe you'll find your new idea or your passion that you need.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Carole. And in 20 seconds. Carole.
Let's hear from Rodrigo from Brazil.
Hello, everybody. What I'm about to say now probably is going to get me arrested when I get to my country, so please pay attention. On Brazil, there's some violence during the protests, people breaking stores and stealing stuff, and media was like going crazy about it and using it as a way to weak movement and also to justify one of the police repression. There are a lot of reported cases of infiltrated policemen inducing violence in the movement so that they have a reason to repress. There are also reported cases of intellectual leaders of the movement getting arrested or getting threatened. And for the internet, something I would like to share. Most of the people who were breaking into the stores and stealing, throwing rocks into the police or banks, most because of what they feel repressed for these organizations. So they don't have education. Since they don't have education, their own language these people know to how to speak, it's violence. And because that's how they were raised. So for the ones who think that you should always repress violence in a radical way, I think we should try to understand why these people do and solve the problem, not hate them. For me, that's true compassion. And for the press on Brazil, some press, especially global, I want to say something. Stop manipulating our people. Thank you.
Ron.
So I want to introduce John Shower from Zambia.
My question is, since we've got the hunger for change when we go back to our countries, how can we keep the flame burning when we go back to our countries? And to all the young people in this world, I want to urge everyone to be able to be thinking beyond our nose. What I mean is to be creative and innovative. Thank you.
Thank you. Miller.
Just one. No, it's okay. I have Mohammed Ali here from Kurdistan of Iraq.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. I want to share a very short story about the significance of leadership. The Kurdistan region of Iraq witnessed a civil war in 1993 to 1998. And at some point, with the help of the international community, the political leaders realized that political dialogue is far more important and significant than political violence. So they started the dialogue, and that resulted in a democratic transition, the emergence of a vibrant civil society, and also an emerging economy that right now has attracted thousands of foreign investors. The moral of the story is dialogue is key to positive action. And I want to ask all of you, when we become leaders, let's keep the dialogue alive as we do now, free and without any barriers. And when we are in a position of power, let's hold on to the One Young World legacy that dialogue is our most powerful soft power that is a precondition to peace, stability, and progress. Thanks a lot.
I would argue you are leaders already, though. You have become leaders already. Trevor.
Right, introducing Raida from Lebanon.
Thank you. I'm a second-generation Lebanese, born and raised in South America. Whenever I get asked where I am from, I have to answer that I am Lebanese, Colombian, and Brazilian for all my background. So I always like to answer by saying that I'm a human. So I've been a human with a lot of privilege and a lot of opportunities, such as being here today representing my home country, representing Lebanon. And I believe in the power of all of those who are in the diaspora to actually spread the messages of our countries. And so my question is, I've been in lucky positions, and I'm trying to help all of those who are outside to share the right and correct messages and to create strategies to actually help our countries. But for all of those who have done it, what is the best ways to do this? How do you start, and how do you encourage people to actually do it too? Thank you.
Thank you. Carole.
David, next we've got Sham from the Maldives.
Hello, I'm Sham from the tiny island nation of Maldives, which has a huge political conflict going on right now. I just want to share some of my NGO's success stories. It is the current elections is happening in our country right now, and our NGO, the Youth Movement, decided it's the ideal time to get our voices heard. With a lot of effort, we managed to get the presidential candidates interviewed, and we actually managed to provide input for their manifestos, and we have actually found out that our recommendations were directly reflected in their manifestos. Despite being treated as little kids who didn't know anything, my friends will not stop advocating for better policies. My point is, we may think we may not be heard, but it is our duty to get our voices heard across. Let's not be idle, let's do our part. Thank you.
And let's speed the comments and the questions up. Come on, let's get them going faster. I know you can do that. Go, Rob.
The next question is from Masato from Japan.
Thank you. I'm a master's student studying East Asian politics in the University of Tokyo. And my dream is to make an improvement over East Asian nations, especially the issue of historical territorial issues. But my obstacle is every time I watch the news, some of the politicians always destroy the situations of the friendly relationship among East Asians. So my question is, how can the youth make the improvement of the behavior of the politicians? Thank you.
Thank you. Miller.
Thank you. The question from this end is from Sazan, and she's from Kurdistan.
Thank you. The speaker from Venezuela, both speakers, they said it was the first time that they had the opportunity to tell the world how suffocating it is to live where they live. For me and my nation, this is probably one of the first opportunities we've had to express to so many representatives of so many countries from the world just how great it is to live in the Kurdistan region. Me standing here was probably just a dream for so many people long ago from Kurdistan. So after years of oppression, in the Kurdistan region today we live freedom, and we can now smell something called democracy. But my question and my concern is, once you've reached such a precious stage that you know just how important and how precious it is and how long it took you to get there, how do you preserve it and how you nurture it and how do you look after it when you're surrounded by war-torn countries and violence and terrorism? Thank you.
Thank you. Trevor.
Right, introducing Beatrice from Venezuela.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to share with you another example of what's happening in my country. In 2004, millions of Venezuelans signed a petition to ask for a referendum to revoke Chavez's government. As a result, the more than 3 million Venezuelans that signed that petition are on a list called the Alcon list. This means they can't opt for jobs in ministries or any public entity. They're basically marked. My father worked for more than 20 years in the Ministry of Defense and was forced to sign a document saying that he wanted to annul his signature and to be taken out of the list in order to keep his job. And like my father, many Venezuelans went through the same. And almost 10 years later, the government still uses the list, even though they deny it.
Carole.
Now we have Mohammed from Iran.
First of all, I am totally agree with you, Russia and other guys from Syria, and I hope and pray for all of you and for your people. I'm from Iran, a country with peaceful and emotional people. Nowadays, after 8 years nightmare, we have peaceful government. We did our best to elect a peaceful president like Mr. Rouhani. And you never know how it was hard to change the situation and policies by election, without blood and fight and through democracy. But now situation is more difficult. We changed our government in order to have a peaceful diplomacy, and they did it recently. Now our only concern is sanction. What can we do about the sanction? How can show the world we can't tolerate sanction anymore? The effect of sanction for us is just famine, poverty, and lack of drugs in my country. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ron.
The next question is from Philip from France and Australia.
Cheers. I want to thank the delegate speakers for the very fair point that it's actually worth and even very noble to run for politics when you feel it's not being done properly. There's one issue that I've observed in both France and Australia, which have both had an election in the past year, Australia a month ago and France last year. I find the biggest obstacle to actual good politics is party politics. And that the reason why the US government is still shut down today is not because 450 members of Congress don't want a government, it's because they prefer voting on party lines than actually getting something done. So one of the biggest things that I would ask you all to do is to go for politics, but don't fall into the trap of going for party politics. Thank you.
Great point. Miller.
Great. So, our next speaker, I had the pleasure of introducing as a delegate speaker last year. She's from India, Namrata.
Hi. Firstly, to Miller, it's great being here, but I'm very envious. I think we got our independence much before South Africa, but in terms of infrastructure, you're far ahead right now, and that's something we can learn. Secondly, to Ashish here, I didn't know about you before I came here, and I congratulate you. But as you go towards national politics, and I worry about you, and I'm sure you're worried too, that when the bulk of our population, which is farmers and people who are not as educated, begin to vote, and they are the people who vote en masse, how will you manage, because you're not aligned to any political party right now, and when you are up against populist moves where people are actually doling out TVs and free electricity, how are you going to manage? I have one suggestion here. Get in touch with other professionals like you who are in politics or maybe not yet in politics and form a party so that you're able to do that. Thirdly, and lastly, I'm meeting a lot of people who are of Indian origin but who are not Indian citizens right now. I would say you're in touch with your roots for your food and for Bollywood. Get in touch with our politics too. And you are right now, you can influence politics right now, but in a few years when you're in a position to send your dollars, euros and pounds to India, send it to the right parties and take interest right now.
Great, thank you. Okay, we've got 6 minutes left. If we get these going fast, we can get everyone in. Trevor.
All right, I'm introducing Perjin from Kyrgyzstan.
Hello, everyone. I've heard a lot from a lot of people here. They are interested in politics. They want to involve in politics, but they're afraid from losing what they want to enter politics for. But I want to tell everyone, I'm a person, I'm a young leader, and I'm not afraid to enter in politics. I will enter politics and I will make the change. And I believe that I will make the change because I have principles that I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Carole.
Here's Tom from London.
Hi, everyone. So surely given the growing numbers of young in all our societies, 50% in some cases, surely the answer is to use our numbers to bring the critical pressure to bear on the issues that we've so powerfully articulated in each of the plenary sessions. So how do we go back to each of our countries, in all of our societies, and inspire our young to get engaged with constructive channels in order for them to do so, maybe unlike political parties, as mentioned before?
Thank you. Ron.
Next is Stephanie from Mexico.
So, as I hear from all you guys, we all want the same change. What I think is that the solution is education. Create the values as one of the most important things in our education. We do not need to be in the most beautiful school in the world to learn something and to have education. We must inspire people and tell them that we can dream and make it happen, but still tell them that we need to understand the meaning of responsibility. And most important, stop raising girls and boys and start raising great leaders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have Nasi Faju from Togo.
Hi, everybody. Okay, my country, Togo, in 2005 have experienced political upheaval, and we had refugees. And so we fear war, but fortunately, it didn't happen. So that's the problem. Our countries are investing thousands for millions of dollars each year in research development to have this kind of most powerful weapon. And they say, okay, we have to have this because we want to protect you. And we're doing nothing about it. So my question is today, and what are we waiting for to say something to our government? Those people who are putting money in developing weapons, those people who are buying and selling weapons. And if it's sometimes difficult in our countries to talk to our government, how could we talk to them? Thank you.
Thank you. Trevor.
Introducing us here from Trinidad and Tobago.
Good afternoon, One Young World. A very special world leader once said to me, I am not worried with young people like you at the forefront of the Commonwealth. Today, I say to all of you, I am not worried at all about this world with young people like you leading.
Excellent. Thank you. Carole.
Baxter from Kurdistan.
Arabeed, I want to ask a question about democracy. But before that, I want to give everyone here a vision. Kurdistan has a population of 40 million people living in Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria, which consider themselves as democracies. And while the Kurdistan is the biggest nation that doesn't have an independent state. So here's my question. How can democracy help the nations to decide or determine their future and destiny? Thank you.
Thank you. Ron.
Antonio from Mozambique.
Hi. One quick thing. First, I'm not against process, but this is the thing. When we plan for protests, let's plan for cool-down plans. What is happening right now is that in those countries where we had protests 2 years ago, right now we face some instability which started from there. So we have failed in bringing peace. And second, most of the process that happen, most of the problems that lead to protests are problems which could have been sorted out before the protests, but simply the leaders were ignorant. So for us, when we become leaders, let's make sure all those problems which we can sort out before any process or before people dying, let's sort them out before they die. And the third thing, let's make sure and pledge that 25 or 50 years from now, all the ruling parties, mainly in Africa, should be those parties which have been created by us today, or all those parties, if they already exist, they should be led by principles and fundamentals which have been set up by us. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Primrose from Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. My question is to Mr. Trevor Ncube. It's a pleasure to be here. And in Zimbabwe, we've been doing programs with orphans and vulnerable children to inspire leadership to them. But I wanted to find out from you how best in Zimbabwe we can leverage on existing media as a tool to inspire leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's do 20 seconds each, and we'll do each mic very quickly, but 20 seconds each. We haven't got any more time, so.
Gordon from the UK.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to say a big thanks to the delegate speakers who've just spoken there for their stories that they've shared. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of many, if not all, of the people in this room when I say that I fully support you and I believe in everything that you do, and I'm sure you're going to make the change. So well done, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And Trevor, go again.
Hi, I'm Oa Geng from Global Girl Media.
And what we basically do is train teenage girls from under-resourced communities to engage in media and to become future journalists. I just want to say to all of you that you are extraordinary, and don't forget to bring along the media along with the projects that you're doing in various countries, because the media plays a big role in how we culture ourselves and how we see the role, how we see our future and how we feel our present.
Great,
So,
that's great.
yeah.
Thank you. Trevor, do you want to come back to stage? Carole, 2 times 20 seconds.
Katrina from Cyprus.
Hello, everyone. I completed my master's at the London School of Economics with the purpose to enter politics. And I would like to ask, how can a young person like me enter politics without being affected by the current leadership style, which is known as corrupted leadership? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mikkel from Ireland.
Hello, on Young World, how are you? I'll keep it quick. I have a call to action on the topic of leadership, that we put mental health on the agenda for next year in Ireland, a country where the suicide is the young people's highest killer, and there are over 500 people dying from it every year. And emerging research is showing that 12% of people before the age of 21 are attempting to take their
Good
lives.
point.
I'll finish up real quick.
No, let's go. No, I think it's a really good point, and we will look to do that. Thank you. Okay, Ron, 3 times 20.
Charles from the U.S.
We've been talking a lot about democracy and spreading freedom, and being from the United States, I just wanted to pose the question to not only the counselors but the delegates, where they see the United States' role and global governance, because we seem to be criticized, but not only our opposition but our allies as well, when we do get involved.
Thank you.
Next.
Nastiha from Kenya.
No, sorry, Miller, we're just going to do really quickly each mic to get them going faster. Ron?
Matthew from the UK.
Hi, I just want to say that we need to start playing the politicians at their own game. We need to organise, lobby, and lobby like the lobbyists do when we get back. So let's get the numbers, get organised, and get the change we want. Thanks.
Great.
Jess from Australia.
Hey guys, I'm an Indigenous Australian from a small country town with a high Indigenous population and a high school dropout rate. I wouldn't have engaged in politics if I didn't have the opportunity of law school in Sydney. My question is, how do we get people interested and informed about politics when informal conversations do not work, because obviously government politics affect everyone?
Terrific, thanks. Ron, do you want to come back? And then Miller, you're 3.
Okay, I'm Nasteha from Kenya. I'm born in Kenya. I'm born in Kenya, but we are considered as among the terrorists just because we are Muslim. So the problem here is since there are refugee camps in Kenya, and Kenya is one of the countries that host refugees, most of them Somali Muslims are considered as terrorists just because we are Muslims. So that's also a problem affecting our country. And I just want to get an advice how we can solve these issues, because I can see it's not only us that is being discriminated. It's all the countries have the same problems. So thank you.
Nasiba from Mauritius. Leadership and governance, 2 beautiful words, very beautiful. We've been debating. Here I am. I just want to say that I believe that the world peace will be attained when the politicians stop dividing us, when we ourselves, everyone here in this house, stop saying I side Israel, I side Palestine, or I side US, or I side Iraq. We should all, as Ron said, collaborate together for world peace. So thank you very much.
And finally.
Yeah, and in terms of world peace, my question is for all of you. Why do your countries need an army? I am Luis from Costa Rica, and if you want to promote development in your country, transparency and democracy, go propose to your governments to abolish your armies. My country did it more than 60 years ago, and it's freaking great to don't have an army.
So we're going to go to the break in 2 minutes, but just before we do, a quick closing word from each of you.
Well, I'd like to say I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's stimulating. I can only say again, I think this is the summit that has absolutely made me realise just what this summit is doing and what Young World is doing. I think that Rodrigo from Brazil was brave. Everyone's been brave. I thought the girl from Kurdistan was very good to say, what do you do to nurture and keep that glimpse of democracy? I say, let's go on and do what's been said. There's been some sound common sense said from the platform and from the audience. Thank you.
Wow. 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 That's all I can say. I'm amazed by your passion. I'm amazed by the energy that's in this room. I also felt a lot of pain. I saw tears from a number of people that are out here. And to me, that says people feel very strongly about the things that they're expressing. This is where it begins. But is it going to begin here or this is where it ends? As you board those planes and as you fly away, do you leave that passion and the pain here? Or you move on to implement the things that you're talking about? I think what I'm going to say to you is that each one of you has a responsibility. You don't point the finger at the person next to you, you point the finger at yourself. And the challenge to all of you is stand up and be counted. Know that your voices matter. Know that people want to hear what you've got to say. So I'm absolutely amazed by the passion that's here, the pain that's here. To the lady that asked me about Zimbabwe, I think my response to you is, and indeed to all the youth in Zimbabwe, is get engaged. We've got the media in Zimbabwe, we've got the newspapers, we've got 4 newspapers in Zimbabwe. Come to our offices, let's talk. Engage with the journalists, show us what you want us to do. At the end of the day, the newspapers we own are not ours. We are custodians. The newspapers are yours for you to use to change our society. Thank you very much.
Ron.
So I just have to say that I am inspired. That was really amazing. And a couple of things that really came out to me. Respect, human rights, service, dialogue as a tool for change, and human dignity. And I think one of the big things, and just to echo some of the words that have already been said, is dialogue is great, but it has to lead to action. And I'm really impressed with the commitment and the dedication to take what happens here and change the world. And I'm really inspired by all of you. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Inspiring as always. I'm left with a feeling that we are living this world, or we can live this world in a better space than we found it when I look at all of you and the contributions that you are making. But just a quick observation on the issue of those who are striving for democracy, for freedom and humanitarian environment. I think it is important to note what has been said. It's about getting involved. It starts with each one of us. And it starts with us needing that network when we go back. And for those who have said they have realized a democracy, and how do we keep it? How do we maintain it? I would say it is important not to count victory too soon, and to understand that to keep democracy, you also have to keep on getting involved. Because liberation is a national project. Keeping democracy alive remains a national project, and therefore active citizenship, dialogue, meaningful participation is what will shape the future of this world, and all that through your efforts. Thank you.
Fantastic. So a final vote before we go to the break, if you can get your voting systems out. And the first question is, what is your opinion of the following global institutions? Effective, ineffective, or not sure? And we're voting to start with, I think, on the United Nations. So effective, ineffective, not sure. Please vote now. Interesting. Next up, the International Monetary Fund. Effective, ineffective, not sure. So we're asking you now to vote on the IMF. Do you think it's an effective mechanism, ineffective, or you're not sure?
Relevant, obsolete, not sure. So relevant, something you can do something with now, doing something now. Obsolete means dead, not sure, not sure. Okay?
Yeah, so and we're still voting. This is still the United Nations, so I moved on to the next one by mistake. So this is the United Nations relevant, obsolete, or not sure? Please vote now.
That message to the audience is after Mustafa.
So more of you think it's relevant than effective, so that's an interesting signal. Okay, next up is the International Monetary Fund. So do you think it's effective, ineffective, or not sure? Interesting findings. And then same again, part B, is it relevant, obsolete, or not sure? Okay. And then I think finally the World Bank. Do you believe the World Bank is effective, ineffective, or not sure? Vote now, please. And the same organization again, but the relevant, obsolete, or not sure. Please vote now. And finally, the World Trade Organization. Do you believe it's there's about 19
There's another one.
A new one keeps appearing every time. Effective, ineffective, or not sure? The World Trade Organization. Some very interesting findings we'll be sharing from this. And the same again, relevant, obsolete, or not sure? Vote now, please.
Right, some purpose there. Right, World Health Organization. We've done okay. Relevant, obsolete, or not sure?
No, effective, ineffective, not sure.
Sorry. There you go. Okay, and last one on that. Relevant, obsolete, or not sure, the World Health Organization. Well done, the World Health Organization, huh?
We have a winner.
Okay, now to the vote. The heads of global institutions should engage with One Young World ambassadors and attend the 2014 summit in Dublin. Agree or disagree? Vote now. Okay, now before we end this session, and I must say along with Carole, Trevor, wow, that session, everybody was amazing. We would like you to meet a very talented delegate who is representing the host city of Johannesburg delegation, who is going to talk about leadership here in Johannesburg and what it means to them to have the conference in Africa. He won the competition to be able to do this. Please will you welcome Mustafa Makudi.
Thank you, Kate. I bring the greetings of our youth from the world-class African city of Johannesburg. And to everybody gathered here, as well as the youth across South Africa, and all the youth across the globe. The Young World Summit is happening here in Africa in 2013, which is a significant year for the African continent. We are celebrating the 53rd anniversary of the OAU, Organization of African Unity and African Union. We have made progress in the whole history of our country, but there is much work to be done. And it's the responsibility of all African leaders to address the remaining challenges. African leaders need to be good role models for the people of Africa. We have great leaders, the likes of Nelson Mandela, Samora Machel, former president of Mozambique, Gertrude Mongela, the former president of Pan-African Parliament, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, current AU chair, Kofi Annan, our beloved councillor, to mention but a few. We need more. All these great leaders know and understand and care deeply for the people they serve. A good leader is honorable and selflessly service of her continent. Values human nature, provides motivation, direction, and the tools and ability to implement change. People want to be guided by the leaders they respect, and to gain respect, they must be ethical. They must keep people informed about the activities of government, their policies, and their trade agreement with other countries. They must inform individuals about their rights and how leaders' funds are utilized. There have been many great examples this week of how young people, leaders in other countries, as diverse as Greece and India, are creating greater transparency, better communication, and better accountability. We need the same in Africa. This will help our politicians carry out their responsibility and ensure continued development of our nation. And that development must be based on sustainability, and many of you already implementing greater initiatives here and abroad. Our leaders should consider sustainability issues in the planning process, ensuring sustainability solution and innovation to help address poverty and youth unemployment. Many of you here today are already addressing these issues. Our leaders could do more. They could support people with access to skill training and funding to help them create new businesses, new jobs, new opportunities, and lift more people above poverty line. We need developing policies. The full impact should be considered wisely. For example, the new road toll proposed in Johannesburg will no doubt raise new revenues to improve our roads. But how will it impact the poorest in our society with a new tax to pay? Whatever the policy, it must be measured and improve sustainability in the lives of the people of Africa. Our new politicians need to strive to build a better Africa. We need to strive to build a better Africa, and many of you sitting here are already helping to build better Africa. Africa thanks you. All you young leaders who are helping, Africa thanks those who are helping to provide an education for all our children. Africa thanks those who are teaching our young people to create jobs and opportunities for themselves. Africa thanks all you who provide inspiration and support to help us on the next step of our journey. As young people, we should all get involved and initiate change in the world with a positive attitude, even when the pressure is on. Be passionate about the objectives and the organization you represent. Passion is the difference between good and great. Enthusiasm, optimism, and energetic drive is contagious. Be self-assured, yet humble and honest and accountable, driven and ambitious, and you will be a leader who's easy to follow and respect. Through collaboration with everyone, the sky should be our limit. Africa needs you, the world needs you, the change must happen, and the change starts with us. I thank you.
Thank you, Mustaf. Will you thank all our speakers and councillors? Fantastic.
So we're now going to have a break.